Thank you so much, Wanda, for agreeing to participate in the interview. I really appreciate your time. So tell me, would you share with us a little bit about your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely, Janelle. My career was sort of a zigzag, wasn't a straight up. It was, all over the place. When I left undergrad, I took the CPA exam. I went on to grad school, got my MBA, and after grad school, I went into corporate banking. So I spent about, a few years in corporate banking until my passion started calling me. I had passed the exam, CPA exam, and I said, well, I like corporate banking, but it's not what I really want to do. So then I joined a big firm, CPA firm. So when I joined the firm, I worked on mostly financial services companies, insurance companies, banking industry, and so forth. And like most accountants and firms, after a few years, I said, okay, what's next? And so I ended up joining a client in the insurance industry that I had worked on. And from there, Janelle, the rest is history. My career just probably started taking off at that point. So from corporate banking, to CPA firm and then to industry.
Wow, that's very interesting. It's never a straight path, right? But it's really cool to hear that that was your calling and you just knew that was what you needed to do. With these various journeys and going through the path you've taken, were there any guiding principles that contributed to your success?
Guiding principles. Yes, I had quite a few, but I will highlight a couple of ones. One is be authentic and be humble. I think early in my career, one of my mentors or sponsors said, Wanda, always be who you are. And I found that by doing that, it was people recognize when you're authentic and it's easier to engage. It's easier to get buy-in too into things. And being humble sort of complements that. I grew up in a Christian family and the Bible was big on being humble. So when I combined those two, it made it easier for me to get promotions, to get collaboration, to build teams and so forth. So that's kind of one guiding principle. Another one that I had was kind of, what I still do now, always invest in yourself. Because I think, when we start out, we finish school, like, oh, we're done with school, right? But I think it's important to continue to learn, to always stay abreast of what's happening in the industry, in the profession, and so forth, and continue to grow your skill set. So I think, as I think about guiding principles, I would say those are the big ones that I would call out right now.
I love it. I agree. I love the staying humble and staying authentic and true to yourself. That is just amazing. I think that's a principle you could take anywhere, career, personal, everywhere. So that's fantastic. And through your career, have you ever received is there any career advice that stuck with you through the times where you're like, yeah, and you kind of fall back on?
Well, one, I heard it early on, but it didn't really resonate until I was actually, in banking. And then one, yeah, I think someone famous may have said it, but I've heard it over and over from various mentors. And it's something like, if you choose to do something that you really like, then you will never work in your life. And so I think for me, when I was in banking, it felt like work, because it wasn't my passion. And so as I was, thinking about, well, what I want to do, that resonated with me, that comment that I'd heard years ago, and so when I chose, the accounting profession, that was my passion. And so now in internal audit, work doesn't really feel like work. So I would say that is something that has stood with me throughout all in my entire career. It's something that I try to tell people, tell my daughters, if you choose something you really enjoy, then that life will be pretty fun, pretty exciting.
I love that advice. I hear that often too, that it does, if you do something you love, you won't feel like work. And I just love that because it's, you spend a lot of time in your professional life and it's nice if it doesn't feel like you're grinding and doing something that you don't really enjoy doing. So I love that. So just to know a little bit more about Wanda, what are your hobbies or special interests? What do you like to do?
Yeah, I'm really, when it comes to hobbies, I'm really a simple person. I come from a big family and, a big extended family. So growing up, I was always around people. So what I like doing is I love spending time with my family and friends, whether that be talking politics, playing games, traveling. I love being around people. So this quarantine has been a little bit difficult for me, to say the least. I've had to, like most people, be innovative, and creative in order to, to spend time with family and friends. That's kind of my go-to, because I can get away from the day-to-day, grind and everything, and just spend time with my family and friends. So not really exciting, but it's what I enjoy.
No, that's a great hobby. I mean, we want to spend the free time we have with our family and friends, the times that we do have free, right?
Absolutely.
Just to get a little bit more about you, do you have a favorite quote or a favorite book that you like?
A favorite book. I think one that stands out in my mind when I think back to when I entered, my first leadership role. It was around the time Lean In came out by Sheryl Sandberg. And so when I read that book, I was like, wow, so I'm not crazy. And so, I think the timing of that book and my career in the leadership realm of insurance and auditing, I think that book and its principles stands out to most because it reminds you that you don't have to be superhuman, and the career trajectory is not a straight line. It twists and turns. And sometimes we hold ourselves back. So I think a lot of those principles in the book, have stood out. And that's the one book that stands out in my mind. From a quote, I love Maya Angelou. She's my shero. So she has so many, but one that I try to live by is something like, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And so I try to live by that, in work, personal and professional. I try to make sure people feel good and, and that's how I would address that.
I love it. That's one of my favorite quotes too. So that's awesome. It really is the way people make you feel. I just love that. And it's so true. You always remember how someone made you feel, even if they said something bad, you remember them that way. Or if they said something great, you remember them that way. And
Absolutely.
yeah, Lean In was definitely a pivotal book at a certain movement. It was something that I'd never heard before or never read anything like that. So 100%. Wanda, you've had such a great career, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your journey and your path. And it has definitely been a pleasure to talk with you, and I really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for inviting me to share my insights, Janelle.
Bye, Wanda.
Bye-bye.